What's up, you guys? It's Low Beauty Demon, and we are back to talk about, well, Gabbie Hanna again. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break from her. Today, we are going to be talking about the Jessi Smiles situation. Today, we are going to be talking about her last video, her preface to her 2 episodes about Jessi Smiles, and more importantly, Jessi's response video. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post, because I've already said this in every video. I don't have a regular upload schedule. I'm sorry. I don't know. My life is a lot. And also, everything I say in this video is just my opinion. This is not fact. This is just based on what I'm seeing on the internet and all that shenanigans. So please don't send anybody any hate, negativity because of anything I'm saying in this video. Just shoot a comment down below. That's what the comment section is there for. Okay, you guys, now that we got that out of the way, I don't even know where to start with this, to be completely honest with you, because I want to tread lightly. This is a very dark and heavy situation, mostly because Gabbie Hanna has made it an even darker situation than it even originally started out as, which almost seems impossible. There are some things that I'm not gonna go into like complete detail about, obviously, because they're really sensitive topics. Honestly, you guys, this was kind of difficult to like go through just because it's the situation at hand and everything involved. It's just, I even contemplated not making this video, but like, I don't know, I'm a Virgo, so I feel like I have to like complete the series. Things have to get finished. So I'll be focusing on Gabbie's video that she posted a couple days ago, and then I'll be focusing on Jessi's responses. But to be honest, Jessi's video really is the end all be all. Like, there should not be any more from Gabbie about this situation. And to be totally honest, after this video, I'm not gonna talk about this situation anymore either. Even if Gabbie does release the 2 episodes that she says that she has about this, I'm not gonna make a video about them. Gabbie released her video about the 3-hour Jessi Smiles phone call. She released it about a week ago, and it has been crickets from her ever since. I'm not sure if she actually got the message this time that she's going too far, or if she's behind the scenes like plotting. I don't know. Her silence is a little alarming. In this video, she said that this was not part of the original filmed series, that she's not going to be dropping like a lot of receipts in this because she has a whole 2 episodes dedicated to this. And this is actually just going to serve as a preface for those episodes, meaning they're the next episodes coming up. So she was planning on releasing those a week ago, but for some reason decided she was going to drop this first. So after Jessi and the entire internet asked her to stop talking about this situation, stop bringing it up in interviews and all of this, she decided, you know what? No, I'm going to include 2 videos about this in my huge series. Oh, wait. And actually, I'm going to make a 3rd video too. What the fuck? And she wonders why people are having issue with her. So in Gabbie's video, she said this.
I also listen to Curtis because he's a human being. And just like in real court, in the court of public opinion, if you're gonna judge and condemn somebody, you should at least hear them out.
I got a lot to say about just this little clip right here. She says he is a human being and he deserves to be heard out. Well, what about just recently when you were attacking Rachel Oates for criticizing your book? Is she not human? Did you hear her out? Did you actually hear her criticism to you? Or what about Oscar Wilde? You know, the man that you had attacked on multiple social media platforms, causing your fans to send him hate, causing him to have to get an emergency session with his therapist when he is in a very early, fragile state of sobriety? He's not human either? Oh, just this guy that somebody is. Okay, so a man who pled guilty to someone, that someone being your former best friend, is more human than another woman who is reviewing your shitty poetry that you fucking sent her to review? Her mind is so warped, she actually used that he's a human, I have to hear him out excuse. Why? What about all these other humans that you haven't heard out in any way, shape, or form? And then to bring up real court versus court of public opinion, like, oh my God. Gabbie, he went to real court. He pled guilty in real court. And because of that, he was found guilty and sentenced in real court. And he had to serve that sentence by order of real court. To be totally honest, I feel like the court of public opinion can just kind of fuck off once somebody's actually pled guilty to the crime and has already served the time for this crime too? What court of public opinion do we even need? Also, just kind of the audacity of Gabbie Hanna to bring up the court of public opinion when she's not been doing herself any favors for a very long time, and she even knew going into this series that it wasn't gonna help her case, period. So it's just kind of weird. I don't know. I also just like don't understand the logic of hearing him out, because this is the same person who uses logic to attack other people and doesn't hear them out, and is the same logic in those instances where she just needs her story to be heard. Like, her story is super impactful compared to what she's doing to people. I mean, I guess it is. It's just not in the like inspirational way that you would think. Like with Michelle Obama, for example, like people want to hear her story because it's inspirational. Gabbie's is a Greek tragedy, 100%. And I'm confused as to how she's viewing her story. I don't know. All of a sudden I start thinking of Greek tragedy and I think of Antigone and Oedipus and ugh. Gabbie tries to paint Jessi as the manipulator and says she is super predictable. Well, Gabbie, when you antagonize people, usually they respond to this. But we all know that you want that. You're wanting the attention. Gabbie also claims, Jessi did not just edit that phone call for brevity. There's no way that you could edit a 3-hour phone call down to the 7 to 10 minutes or whatever it was and keep the context. And to prove this, she shares the entire full video down below. She did send it to her editor. They edited out a couple people's names and apparently Gabbie's essay story, which is fine. She does not have to tell her story. But it's pretty ironic that the nature of this phone call is the fact that you've been talking to the person who essayed Jessi and you're actually trying to like sue her in some way, but like you get the luxury of cutting your story out. I thought that was kind of ironic. I also cannot believe she didn't go back and listen to this call before she posted it. I sure as hell would have listened to this 3-hour phone call. And can you imagine being her editor and having that 3-hour phone call? Because I listened to that call, and to be honest, I don't think any context was taken out of that. I think what Jessi says is completely accurate. Gabbie continues to deflect around, so they don't ever really get to finish about a specific topic. So she had to like piece parts of the conversation together for it to all make sense, because Gabbie was just all over the place. And maybe that's Gabbie's ADHD doing that. However, I don't think it's fair for you to say that the context of the conversation was lost. I just picture her editor sitting there like, you're not gonna listen to this at all before you post this, because her editor legit listened to this whole thing. Gabbie also says in this phone call she apologized to Jessi many times. I didn't remember an apology, but Jessi did say there was one apology, but it was followed by a but, and that's not an apology. That's almost like a I'm sorry you feel that way, which is not an apology either. And for her to make a bold statement like that, I apologized to her multiple times, and she didn't even go back and listen to the call. I feel like you should have learned your lesson, because you've had previous problems where you have been adamant with Jessi that you have put information out there publicly in the Notes app apology, and when we went back, it wasn't there. Oh, but it was in the first draft and I must have edited it out. It just continues to ruin her credibility time and time again. This girl has no credibility whatsoever. Gabbie also maintains that she did apologize for her initial tweets way back in the day before they were friends. Jessi confirms this, but they had a whole other friendship that happened afterwards and a complete fallout afterwards, which is where a lot of the big problem lies. However, Jessi goes on to say in her video, these apologies don't matter, because later on, Gabbie goes on to say, I never even made those tweets. Those tweets didn't exist. So if you're saying what you're apologizing for didn't happen, then you're taking away the apology. The apology is null and void at this point. So we're back at square one. One thing I've just picked up about Gabbie Hanna, like overall, it's just a very overarching story in her life, but it is very highlighted in this situation, is Gabbie Hanna has a serious problem with Twitter. She is constantly checking. She sees everybody who subtweets her, people who reply to her, people who like negative tweets about her. It's very intense. I think for her mental health, she needs to just get off of Twitter. And I don't mean just like stop using the app. I mean deactivate your account, like leave Twitter. This is not a healthy place for you. It's obviously extremely triggering. Twitter is a very serious problem in Gabbie Hanna's life that she needs to address. Point blank, period. Of course, Gabbie Hanna gives a very one-sided argument for her case in the court of public opinion. However, Jessi does admit to some of her wrongdoings, some decisions that she made, some texts, some tweets. She does also clarify that she did admit to tweeting on her friend Jen Den's Twitter, but then would always delete all the tweets, and none of the tweets that she made are on Jen Den's Twitter anymore. Gabbie is using screenshots of Jen's Twitter and saying that these are Jessi, but Jen has even come forward and been like, no, that was me saying it, and I'll say it again. Stay away from my man, because Gabbie is apparently trying to get in contact with Jen Den's husband. Like, what the fuck? Why are you trying to contact their spouse? Gabbie claims that these two, especially Jessi, will start going off and talking about Gabbie just completely unprovoked. She claims that Jessi leaked these parts of the phone call in her Twitter thread completely unprovoked. Did you forget the BuzzFeed article that you did where you talked about Jessi ad nauseum through the entire thing, except for the few times you talked about Trisha Paytas and Rachel Oates and your Kenza Cosmetics? Like Jessi says in her video, that article wasn't about your art, it wasn't about your music, it was about your scandals, and it focused heavily on something that wasn't about you. In the phone call, Jessi says she will sign an NDA if Gabbie signs an NDA, which I think is perfectly 100% fair. Why should Jessi have to sign an NDA about a situation that involves her own and Gabbie not have to sign it? Gabbie says she's gonna be having to do interviews. She has to be able to talk about it. No! How many celebrities out there have had people ask them questions on the red carpet or in interviews or in press junkets where they're doing movie promos, and somebody asks them a question and they say, no comment, I can't address that.
J-Lo?
Die kenne ich nicht.
We don't even know if there's NDAs behind that or if they're just being class acts and not answering the question. It's not hard to avoid topics when the article is about you and you can actually control the direction of the conversation. Besides, I feel like a lot of times in interviews, they may either send you like the questions beforehand or they will also take your like do's and don'ts. Like, I won't talk about this, but this is totally on the table. Gabbie brings up this lawsuit that she was apparently blackmailing Jessi Smiles with. She was holding it over her head if she didn't do a public apology. Jessi says this video and her chapters in the series are her following through these blackmail threats that she made in this phone call a year ago. And Jessi says probably the majority of this evidence that Gabbie was gathering for this lawsuit that she's going to be now putting in her videos later are probably like tweets and subtweets. Can you imagine if this had actually gone to court and you're a judge looking at evidence of screenshots of tweets and subtweets of like just random people? What a weird dystopian world we live in. Going back a little bit to her BuzzFeed article, Gabbie says in it she has apologized to Jessi Smiles. It feels a little chaotic that she's never received one, and I'm paraphrasing that right now. She can't understand why Jessi Smiles wouldn't apologize for not doing anything. So Gabbie thinks BuzzFeed asked a lot about Jessi because Jessi made sure, quote, Jessi made sure I would be asked about her for the rest of my fucking career probably. Why on earth would anyone want to tarnish their reputation by being attached to you for the rest of their life, Gabbie? I'm sorry, I don't think that was in Jessi's master playbook. I mean, you don't think this is embarrassing to Jessi? She doesn't want this to be coming up, just like you wouldn't want yours to be coming up. Just like anybody who's gone through this would not want this to be coming up in an entire BuzzFeed article where they're not even the one being interviewed. Gabbie says she did not include her story in the phone call that she put out because it was embarrassing and traumatizing. And these are the exact same words that Jessi has been using to describe this entire situation for quite some time. So where's the empathy here, Gabbie? Where is Jessi is a human? again. And you know, if the roles were reversed, Gabbie be flying off the handle. So I'm not sure what she thinks is so wrong about Jessi responding to everything that she's doing. Gabbie keeps throwing up screenshots. I don't know if she like totally read these screenshots at all, but first of all, her responses are cropped out, which Jessi does include her responses. They're nothing like wild, but she's trying to paint this narrative from these screenshots that Jessi threatened her. She also uses these screenshots multiple times in the video to continue to support the same claims, whereas everyone else that ever comes out with anything actually uses other screenshots of conversations because they have multiple examples of her shitty behavior. The only reason Gabbie continues to use these screenshots is they were the ones that best could be twisted into this narrative she's trying to paint, and it just doesn't work. I mean, to cut out your responses, talk about manipulation. You're trying to call out Jessi as a master manipulator, but you don't even leave all but one of your responses. She says Jessi crossed boundaries when she was forcing her into that phone call. What about every single boundary you've ever crossed with anybody else? Regardless of what Jessi does, what kind of action she takes, whether she blocks her on any social media, she blocks her phone number, she blocks her email, she will find a way to get a message. She contacts her friends. And she's even said in one instance that she would just contact a random person to get a message to Jessi. Like, the girl doesn't want to talk to you. Just like Trisha doesn't want to be your friend, Jessi doesn't want to talk to you. She doesn't want to hear from you. She doesn't want to hear about you. She doesn't want you to be talking about her in articles or on Twitter or in any videos. Like, I don't understand what Gabbie's not really getting about this. Gabbie throws out the words that Jessi is her abuser and she's been blackmailing her, which extremely discredits people who are actually in a situations, because I really don't think somebody who literally is trying to avoid you like the plague and lives across the country is you. And in the text message that she sent after the 3-hour phone call, she gave her an ultimatum of, you have 48 hours to talk to your attorneys, or I'm gonna do this and this, or I'm prepared to do this. This is all alleged, my opinions, but that sounds like blackmail to me. I mean, she's holding a lawsuit and 2 episodes of her podcast over Jessi's head, unless she makes a public apology. Gabbie clarifies how many interactions she had with Curtis, which was more than Jessi originally thought, which in my opinion doesn't really make her look any better, but at least she's being honest. Then she begins to claim that Curtis was actually the one blackmailing her as well through videos and audio. I'm just like confused because both Jessi and her are now blackmailing Gabbie. And what does Curtis gain from this? And she continues to double down on the claim that Jessi forced her into a 3-hour phone call, pretty long conversation with somebody you don't want to talk to. And Jessi recorded this because she knew she was always going to release it. I mean, you're threatening legal action against her and then you're trying to get on a private phone call with her without a mediator or a lawyer on the call. Yeah, I would be recording that too. She in the video verbally says, Curtis told me his side, but the words on the screen say, if I asked Curtis his side.
Curtis told me his side of the story, that it would start opening up questions. Well, what did they both say?
So she corrects herself on the screen, meaning she asked Curtis to tell him his side of the story. Who asks somebody that? And Jessi calls out the fact that people could be listening to Gabbie's video but not looking at the screen and not see something like that, which is a huge discrepancy in the story that Gabbie has been telling. Jessi admits Gabbie and all of her allegations of everything that she said about her are kind of confusing and erratic, but she tries her best to break down what she thinks Gabbie is talking about in every situation, and she owns up to her fault in some of these things, but they're not to the extent that Gabbie portrays them to be. So side note, again, I found this very interesting. Jessi said she went to Oprah's Life You Want weekend, which is like a wellness retreat, good for like personal growth and stuff like that. And it was here through this personal growth and introspection that Jessi decided that she didn't want anything to do with Gabbie Hanna anymore. She didn't want to be her friend. So fucking Oprah Winfrey opened Jessi's eyes to Gabbie Hanna. I just find that fucking hilarious, to be honest with you. You can't claim that you want to be left alone, but do that article and drop this series. This entire thing is all about craving attention. I think she does feel a lot of shame about this, and she's very insecure, but she cannot admit any of that publicly because that looks weak, and people have seen Gabbie Hanna as being weak, and she doesn't want to be that anymore. But now she just looks like a unempathetic, uncaring fool, and this isn't doing her any favors. Like I said, this is just about getting attention, stroking her ego, all while making sure she keeps her shame and insecurity hidden. And to be honest, it's incredibly sad and kind of pathetic to watch somebody going through this on a platform. But whenever I feel bad, remember, she does something super shitty that makes me not feel bad anymore. So if you're worried that I might be getting manipulated by Gabbie Hanna, don't be, because I did actually see some people commenting in other videos. Gabbie only responds to Jessi, but I don't see exactly what this BuzzFeed article was responding to. And I'm not entirely sure what this whole series is responding to, because you can't really say that it's responding to this phone call, because I'm pretty sure this series was filmed before the phone call was leaked.
If you think that hearing Curtis tell his side of the story makes me a bad person, okay, we're just not gonna see eye to eye.
So she's not sorry. This right here validates what everybody has been calling her, because I personally don't want to hear tell me their side of the story, like, ever. I don't care who that person is. There's no other side, especially when that person admitted and pled guilty. Jessi was hoping that through her pleas, Gabbie would have some common decency and just not include her story in this, but we all know Gabbie isn't a decent human being. She brings up a good point. There's no reason for Gabbie to be talking about this because she's not adding anything to the conversation. She's not being productive in any way. Gabbie is not helping anybody in this. In fact, she is not only triggering Jessi, but also probably tons of her fans and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other people who are witnessing this fucking debacle happening. But she's presenting her case in the court of public opinion. It doesn't appear to be in her favor at this point because as of now, she has not posted a video in an entire week. I have seen some videos saying that she's either re-editing what she already has or just working on a whole new series. I don't think she can come back from this. This could be it for her. Now, I don't really want to talk about what Gabbie was saying about consent and all that shit because that was fucked up. She shouldn't have been having that conversation on camera at all when it involves actual people, like, point blank, period. So I'm just gonna move on from that. So this is where we're at. Gabbie Hanna has not stopped hurting people. She continues to hurt people. That's her MO now. She's so impulsive with what she says, what she does, how she acts. She has no recollection of who she's hurt or how many people she's hurt. The insecurity and the need for attention is so blatantly obvious, and she needs to get deep help at this point. Gabbie Hanna has planted every landmine that she is trying desperately to avoid. This is her problem. She made this bed and now she doesn't want to lay in it. And regardless of whatever her mental health struggles are, none of this is okay and has to stop. I really hope she does not post those other two videos. I honestly just hope she doesn't post at all. I'm not saying she needs to leave the internet forever, but she needs to take a really long time away from the internet. And I'm not talking just a James Charles time away from the internet. Not 2 months, maybe a couple years. She needs to really work on herself. Or maybe she needs to move to Hawaii and start that candle card company that she said she wanted to start. The internet's not good for Gabbie Hanna, and she's not good for the internet. I think she needs to step away. And it could be a case of somebody who had a really amazing career and it started dying, and she's trying to do everything she can to hold on to it. I really hope Gabbie Hanna gets the help that she needs. I know that's weird, but I wish her well, I guess. I also hope Jessi Smiles continues to do well. When it's all said and done, I hope Gabbie Hanna gets help that she needs. I hope that the fact that we haven't seen her in the past week means that somebody around her has stepped in and said, look, you need to take a break. You need to stop and step back. Let's make some art. Let's do some crafts. Let's make some poetry or do some yoga. She has the ability to take time off. And this is going to be the last time I talk about this particular incident. I'm done. There's nothing new that can be said. Jessi said she's never going to comment on this. I don't feel like I need to speak on it anymore either, because I 100% this is not my story at all. Even if Gabbie does come out with more episodes about this, I'm not going to dissect them. In fact, I'm just going to take a bit of a break from Gabbie Hanna. There are other things that I want to focus on that I feel like really need attention right now. And I will be getting some lighthearted content onto my channel soon, because we've been talking about some just like dark, crazy stuff. Anyway, you guys, if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I cannot believe that I am almost at 5,000 subscribers. That happened really fast. So I thank you guys so much. I love that you guys are all enjoying my content. And yeah, I'm super awkward. And I will see you guys later.